So guys, what do you all think about those new Englishes?
What do you mean Englishes? You mean English?
No, I actually mean so many new Englishes, so many different cultures and identities in those many English languages that change so many different words and concepts. Like, I have my ice on my wrist, and this is so cool.
But wouldn't you just call it English? It's still the same language, isn't it?
No, but so many cultures, right?
Yeah, I mean, from experience, I am from Portugal. I speak Portuguese, but I see myself translating a lot of idiomatic expressions. I don't know if that could be considered a new English, but I know that I make other people around me that are English speakers also use those expressions. So that's very interesting, I think.
Right? Like, I have it also with German. Like, I'm from Germany, and we use so many words, we Englishify those words, like the word handy. Like, nobody uses the word handy, but for us, it's like the mobile phone. So we just walk around, it's like, yeah, can you pass me the handy? And nobody understands me when talking English, but actually I mean like, oh, that's my mobile phone, right? So if I talk to you like, give me my handy, would you understand me?
No, what would that mean?
No, give me my phone.
Also, what you mean is that basically it's no longer one English, but there's so many variations that we have to speak of it in the plural instead of the singular now.
Because it's so, I feel like it changes so often. It changes to so many different, because so many different cultures, groups, societal norms have their own identity, their own style of English. So you cannot even consider it anymore one English.
So even if I just speak in my native accent, that would be considered a new English then?
I guess so.
So did you know that actually about 2 billion people on this planet speak English?
That is true. At the same time, there are a lot of countries that experience social inequalities just by, English. Even in post-colonial contexts, after these countries have gotten independence, they have English as their official language, but not everyone in that country might have access to English education. So that leaves people at a disadvantage where because of this social issue, they might not be able to take advantage of resources like healthcare. And that can really affect people in major ways.
Many things in our world is rooted in politics. So some countries, for example, in Middle East, I'm come from Middle East, because of the crisis, economical crisis and political crisis, they don't even have access to a sort of education for English, learning English. So they know that learning English is a opportunity, but they don't have access to it.
How do you think your life would be different if you didn't have the chance to learn English?
As a Jamaican, English is my native language, and we also speak a dialect in Jamaica, which is Jamaican Patois. But there are people in some parts of Jamaica who only speak Jamaican Patois, and because of this, these people they have, a harder time getting jobs. So I can see how it could really affect a society if they're expected to be able to speak English only when other languages that are just as valuable exist.
Have you heard of languages like that don't exist anymore?
Yeah, I've heard that there's like every 2 weeks one language dies out in this world.
Really?
What? Being from Jamaica, there is a language that used to exist on Jamaica, and it was called Arawak, and it was spoken by the native people of Jamaica. But because of colonialization, that language no longer exists, and it's so unfortunate because the word Jamaica is an Arawak word, which means out of many one people. And we still feel remnants of the language, but it's almost like a part of us as Jamaicans is gone because the language is no longer here.
But is there, for instance, like a movement, or are people kind of trying to gain it back, or is there not even a source of it?
Well, Arawak is still spoken in other parts of the Caribbean, but in Jamaica, to my knowledge, for now, there isn't any work being done to try to get the language back, and that's an unfortunate truth that happens when languages go extinct.
See, I think the problem is mainly what you said about colonialism. It's not like these people are giving up this language voluntarily, or sometimes it's not even, like we discussed earlier, that English is just becoming more important. But in the instance of colonialism, it's literally being forced upon these people against their will. Another example would, for example, be what happened in Ireland with their native English and with their native language, which would be Galga or Irish Gaelic, where literally from the British colonialism, the Irish people were forced to forfeit their native language, and literally generations of children weren't taught the native language anymore. Except nowadays, they're actually trying to regain it back. So by the government, they have implemented Irish as a school subject, and it's being shown on TV more and on the radio. And I've even heard that some restaurants offer discounts if you order it in Irish instead of English.
Really? Well, I have to go to learn Irish, like 100%.
That's a really good and effective way to, implement the language back into society.
Ooh, but like, are we like losing a culture if we kind of like lose languages?
Definitely.
But
I feel like language and culture, they go so hand in hand. Like you can't express your culture without the language.
So I feel like nowadays we definitely have a changed attitude towards judging people based on their race or ethnicity or social class. But when we look at language, we don't usually regard it in the same light. What do you think about that?
Diversity and inclusion are words that you hear a lot these days, and they basically suggest that people shouldn't be judged based on their race or their color or their gender, but this same grace isn't afforded when it comes to linguistic diversity.
Actually, I saw something very interesting. So during the Dag van de Moedertaal, we had this exercise that one of the lecturers gave. So she presented just voice recordings of the same speaker, but people didn't know that yet. So it was the same speaker, but speaking English with a Dutch accent, speaking English with the American accent, and speaking English with the British accent, I guess. And people didn't know it was the same person, but each time they tried to guess who that person was or how would look like, they imagined someone different. So for instance, for the Dutch speaker speaking English, they imagined what was something with a poorer background, so doesn't have a lot of studies, for instance.
So what you're saying is that we make assumptions on a person just based on their accent. So we assume that a person is poor or rich or smart or not smart or has a university education or not, just based on how their voice sounds and how they speak English?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's like usually like a very unconscious process, but people don't naturally do it.
Guys, what do you think of the power of languages? I feel like, for instance, with English, I have this dominating language that I can talk with so many people and achieve so many things, like being a superstar or a big politician. But what do you guys think?
I mean, honestly, a language can kind of be like a pair of wings that you attach to your back that can just help you fly above all the things that you could achieve with only knowing one language or a language that not many people speak. So, I mean, if we all didn't speak English, we wouldn't be here talking to each other, right?
Exactly, but
Yeah, I think that your point is valuable, but at the same time, when you have power, it means that other people don't have that power. So, in terms of morality or ethics, I think we should consider the distribution of power between ourselves. So we know that many people all over the world have this power, but the most majority of people don't have. So we need to reconsider this issue again.
yes, but is there not the beauty of for instance, being bilingual or trilingual or a polyglot, that we can like have a big conversation with so many people in so many different languages, even with in other terms. Right?
Yeah, I agree that this is really true. But in fact, if this opportunity, there are many people who don't have this opportunity. So it means that, yeah, it would be good if we can educate people all over the world for having this skill to speak and to find other people, make connections. Yeah, but you know, you are rooted in your history, your stories, your ancestors. So without your language, your mother tongue, you would lost all those heritage, all those culture.
I didn't realize the type of power that English truly has as a native speaker. So studying in the Netherlands where, well, especially in Amsterdam, there are so many people who are from different places. It was my first time being confronted with the actual power imbalance that's associated with English. It was my first time seeing students actually doubt themselves in how they speak simply because they have a different native language, and it's really not fair, and it shouldn't be a thing if you ask me. Yeah.
I know, but hey, coming from a different culture, like I come from Germany. For me, my basics of English came from sitcoms, came from all those American TV shows like Friends and The Office. Of course, it's not the best way to learn English. Of course, it's not like academically and fun, but it still gives me a base that I could build onto. And now, even now I'm here, I'm studying in English. I would never expect this, right?
Yeah, I think those TV shows, they really set up the standard that people do expect to speak, especially when they are in an international environment. But I do understand the struggle because I do feel like now I improved a lot, but when I was younger, especially when I arrived to Amsterdam, it was very difficult for me to speak up, and it's still a little bit difficult for me to speak up, but I think practice really enhances.
It's definitely so. I find it diverse and complicated. Sometimes even fun. Yeah. Sometimes I have in university teachers from a Dutch background talking in English, teaching me about art or architecture, and then you're like, "What am I hearing here?" I just heard somebody saying a word in a super certain accent, and you're like, "What did you say?" On the other hand, people have it with me.
The thing about accents is, well, for me personally, I think the only thing that matters is intelligibility. Once you're understood, I feel like that's all that, you know, needs to transpire. Accents, I feel like they're so valuable, they're so wholesome, but it's so saddening that so many people are insecure about their accents. Do we really want to all sound the same?
Please not, please. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think accents, they are funny, and they should be preserved also for the identity of the person, because if you do try to sound like an American or a British speaker or Australian even, then at some point I believe you must lose a part of your identity, your original identity, if you can say it like that.
That's so true. But also, sometimes I feel like if some people faking an accent, I found it sometimes even more irritating than actually just embracing your own. But
yeah,
right?
It's up to a personal decision of yours. If you feel like you'd have a better time traveling through life, conforming to one accent, if it helps you, then for sure. But I would suggest to try to not forget the cultural richness that is behind your native language if it isn't English. Yeah.